Thanks a lot for joining. My name is Francisco Marin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cognitive Talent Solutions. This webinar is called Organizational Analysis and Restructuring Based on Artificial Intelligence. Today in this webinar, we will be talking about two main topics. First, we will talk about organizational network analysis, which is better known as ONA. And then we will also talk about organizational restructuring, more specifically about the simulation of organizational restructuring scenarios. And for both topics, we will be reviewing a series of case studies. Due to limitations in the capacity of the tool that we're utilizing for this webinar, we have split the people that signed up in groups of 25 or less in order to have more personalized and interactive sessions. So let's use these, and if any of you have any questions or any doubts at any moment, just type it on the chat or ask for permission to use the microphone, and I will do my best to solve your doubts. Brief introduction about myself. As I said, my name is Francisco Marin. I come from Spain. I spent most of my career at IBM, where I worked on various roles. I worked as a project manager and Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and also as business analytics leader for the sales transaction support operations in Europe. In September of 2017, a group of colleagues from IBM left the company and launched a venture called Cognitive Talent Solutions, which is also known as CTS. And this is a startup that is focused on organizational analysis and restructuring. We have spent most of 2018 in New York City in the US, where our team is currently based. And as per 2019, part of our team will also be operating in Madrid, in Spain. We are organizing this webinar in collaboration with Factum, which is our exclusive partner in Spain, as well as with BCH, which is an association with more than 1,000 HR executives with presence in Spain, United States, and South America. So let's start talking a little bit about ONA, about organizational network analysis. ONA is not a new topic. Actually, the first articles on ONA are from Harvard Business Review from 1993. However, due to the development of new technologies in data mining and also in data visualization techniques, ONA has experienced a very strong boost over the last 2 to 3 years. We could define ONA as a method that enables us to analyze and visualize how employees interact with each other within an organization. And this enables you to get a completely different picture of your organization than that you have got so far, and understand the inner workings of our company, including the identification of informal leaders, organizational silos, and bottlenecks. So the information that so far was provided by the more traditional organigrams was very much focused on hierarchy, roles, and also on years of experience. However, nowadays, companies are becoming more decentralized, more agile, if you will, and there are shared values and culture, higher transparency across strategic goals and projects, and also we can see a continuous flow of information and feedback. The companies are increasingly rewarding their people based on their skills and their abilities rather than their position or experience. We need to differentiate between two main types of organizational network analysis. We have active ONA and passive ONA. Active ONA is based on an ad hoc survey where employees identify who they interact with and how. This is an exercise that gives you information on informal interactions within the organization, and you can use, as we will see, for a wide variety of purposes. On the other hand, we have passive ONA, which gathers data from passive data sources through APIs of a wide variety of collaboration tools. The most common use case is based on email communication, but you can run passive ONA on other tools like Jira, GitHub, or internal social media channels. Typically, companies start with active ONA first in a strategic department, like can be, for example, shared services, and then at company level. And step by step, they explore the integration of passive data sources as they become more familiar with ONA. The ideal scenario is actually to have a combination of both active and passive O&A because it will help you get a much more complete overview of the interactions in your organization. And these two approaches are very complementary in the regard that active O&A focuses on informal and subjective interactions, while passive O&A focuses more on formal and objective interaction with the organization. This is an example of how visualization of active organizational network analysis look like. As you can see, we have different icons that represent the employees that are mapped as part of the analysis, and the lines represent the different interactions that take place between each of the employees. Um, as you can see, there are three main categories selected. We have central employees in green color, intermediary employees in yellow color, and finally, peripheral employees in red color. How are these categories decided? Basically, you have an algorithm that um, finds a balance between the different types of interaction that you are mapping. Because one of the risks here is that let's imagine that you have a person working in a help desk. If you are mapping the interaction technical support, it's very likely that the person working in help desk is going to have a very high number of people that indicate that this person is supporting them with technical issues. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a central employee or an informal leader. That's why what the algorithm does is to find the balance between the different types of interactions that you are utilizing. And that way, if an employee is identified as a central employee, it's because it excels at all the or a majority of the interactions that you're mapping. Um, Central employees can have a formal leadership role or not. In the context that we have central employees with very strong presence and influence in the organization without a formal leadership role, we could consider that they are informal leaders. Um, these are typically the 20%. The central employees are the 20% with best rating from the algorithm. The 60% in the middle are considered intermediary, and the 20% with the lowest rating are considered peripheral employees. So you can see this very rich information that focus on informal interactions and that we can use for a wide variety of purposes. For example, identification of informal leaders inside of the organization. If you are able to identify the 3% of your organization that has informal leadership and you turn them into early adopters of strategic changes, you can influence up to 85% of the remaining population. However, if you only rely on formal leadership roles as early adopters, the best case scenario, you will influence only up to 45% of the people in the company. This is based on research that took place recently in the United States. Just to put a real example, you might be implementing agile methodologies. So you have to identify a series of agile champions that will act as early adopters of the implementation of this methodology. If you are able to identify these informal leaders, not only you can accelerate in a significant manner the implementation of agile methodologies, but you can actually engage these informal leaders in a proactive manner and avoid that they can use their influence in a negative manner and create resistance towards those strategic changes. Because at the end of the day, these informal leaders, these top influencers, they use their influence either in a positive or in a negative manner, and you want to have them identified as soon as possible and have them work in favor of the change they are trying to implement. By integrating algorithms of our artificial intelligence and with the different techniques of analytics, we can also obtain customized recommendations at employee level when we do this exercise. What these recommendations do is to compare the level of influence of the employee with their current level of experience and responsibilities, and also look at the different types of interaction that they excelled at. In that regard, just to put an example, you might have manager in the organization that has been working for more than 20 years in the company. So when you run this type of exercise, you would expect that person to have a central position in the network. However, in the context that there is a person that doesn't have a leadership role and is working in the company for less than 1 year, for example, the level of influence of that person, if he's deemed to be a central employee, would exceed the expectations that you would have from him or from her. This is captured by the recommendations. They let you know whether the level of influence of the employee exceed expectations, meet expectations, or are below expectations. And then depending on the specific interaction that the employee excels at, they will give you recommendations on how to develop that potential within the company. Once you gather this information, you can also compare the networks of different employees across different types of interactions. Here, for example, we are comparing two employees across the interactions technical support, personal support, and sharing information. As you can see, the network of the employee or the values of the employee are reflected in a radar chart. So we can see that this employee, Aline Beus, provides technical support to 63 employees. And the tool is indicating us that this value is 14% above the average of the company. We can see, on the other hand, the other employee, Adele Kruger, has better rating at personal support, while Alain Beus is better at sharing information, and both of them are pretty much balanced when it comes to providing technical support. This type of analysis is very useful in the context of, for example, of internal promotions, when you are considering two candidates with similar profiles for a role, and you can compare them in a very user-friendly manner across interactions that are very relevant, and so far they were difficult to measure. Actually, in a recent interview, the CEO of LinkedIn mentioned that soft skills, like, for example, the ability to influence others, the ability to create connections within the organization, or the ability to communicate in an effective manner, were the most sought after by employers, and were gaining increasing importance. So this is a way as well to map, to some extent, those soft skills that can enable you to take more informed decisions in the context of leadership development programs, internal promotions, or recruiting. This is an example of passive O&A, in which we are performing burnout risk assessment at the employee level by monitoring email communication. As you can see, we have a series of icons representing employees in the company that have a color code based on the level of burnout risk assessment. So employees in red color show a high burnout risk level, yellow is medium, green is low, and gray, the small dots, indicate the external accounts that they interact with on a regular basis. So here you can assess the burnout risk of the employees based on a series of metrics, the most important one being the percentage of emails sent outside of working hours. But also you can consider other metrics like the frequency of emails, comparing internal versus external communication, percentage of emails that are replied versus those that are received, percentage of meetings that are attended versus those that you are invited to. It depends on the context of the company and what wants to be achieved. But in general, the percentage of emails sent outside working hours is a very strong indicator of whether there is an efficient or an inefficient time management, and whether that person is really at risk of burnout. This, by the way, is because of technical limitations of the tools that we are using for this webinar. We cannot share the screen, but I actually would be glad to schedule an online demo with each of you if you are available, because it's a very interactive technology. You can actually drag the employees in the visualization and see in a very interesting manner how they're able to influence their peers. So this is something that is very impactful and gives a strong value added to this type of analysis. I would like to go now through a series of case studies, and this will cover both active and passive organizational network analysis. So the first case study has to do with the acceleration of innovation in the largest orthodontic lab in Europe, which is OrthoPlus Group. This is a project that we did in Cutomized Talent Solutions, and it was really interesting because the analysis showed that 1/3 of informal leaders in this company had less than 1 year of service in the company. Two-thirds had less than 3 years, and only one-third had more than 3 years of experience or years of service in the company. So this was a very good sign. Why? Because it showed that the company was able to integrate new people and give them relevance in the organization in a short period of time. This is something that is critical if you want to have a healthy organization, you want to be able to expand and scale up your operations in an effective manner. The other interesting thing that we found with this project was that high revenue departments were displaying twice as many interactions per employee. So those departments that were generating higher revenue had an average of 28 interactions per employee approximately, while those departments that were not generating revenue, the average number of interactions per employee was only 14, which was 50% less, right? So it was very interesting case study. So this is all about organizational network analysis. Now I would like to speak about organizational restructuring. In this context, um, nowadays research from Deloitte shows that 82% of companies are implementing organizational restructuring initiatives every year. The survey specifically captured three scenarios. There was that the company either had just implemented an organizational restructuring, or it was currently implementing it, or was planning to implement it in the short term. By organizational restructuring initiatives, we consider mergers, acquisitions, or internal reorganizations. And research from Boston Consulting Group and Harvard Business Review, also McKinsey, among other sources, show that 75% of these organizational restructuring initiatives fail. In the context of mergers and acquisitions, they fail because the M&A is not able to create shareholder value in the middle term. And in the context of internal restructuring initiatives, they are they're considered to fail when first they have a very high level of employee turnover and they are not able to complete the restructuring process in a timely manner. So in that context, the two key challenges here are first, identifying the right people for the right roles, which is not something easy to do because there are too many variables to take into consideration, and these decisions are typically taken in an environment that has a high level of uncertainty. And on the other hand, the second challenge is completing the restructuring process in a timely manner. Now you see, most employees that go through this type of organizational restructuring, they find themselves in an environment where uh, they don't have clear visibility on who's taking the decision on what's going to happen with their career. And there is no visibility either on what are the variables that are being utilized by the decision makers and when the decision is actually going to be taken. So this environment of high uncertainty, especially for millennials and other people that they have higher level of impatience to move forward with their careers, can be fatal for the company and can really have very negative ramifications in their operations. So this is an example of how artificial intelligence combined with organizational network analysis can help accelerate and foster more informed decision making throughout the restructuring process. Here we have an example, and this actually, by the way, what I'm going to show you right now is a technology that was developed by our company, by Cognitive Talent Solutions, that is currently pending on a patent at international level. So here we have an example of an organization of 150 employees that is going to be merged or is going to acquire an organization of 50 employees. For each of these employees, we typically have information like the name, the location, department, skills, map at employee level, diversity and inclusion metrics like gender and level of seniority. You can have really a series of metrics depending on the level of maturity in terms of analytics of the organization. But the point is that typically the way that this would work in this type of restructuring scenario is that you would have a series of consultants hired by the company, and those consultants would basically set the kind of like the master plan for the restructuring, setting even headcount levels, at department level, typically. You would also have some type of organization that in some cases is known as integration team, so in some cases known as acceleration team, and these are a selection typically from people with some of the best performance in the company that will work very closely with executives and with these consultants to implement uh, these changes in the organization and restructure the organization. Now, the problem is that, again, typically you would have a person having to take a decision over a large number of people, sometimes in which even they don't know the people personally. And this is the perfect scenario to have bias and time consuming decision metric, the decision making. And this is what leads in the end, together with the not only how long it takes to take these decisions, but the fact that there is no visibility on the criteria or variables that are considered, and strong presence of office politics. This is what leads to a lack of productivity, high level of turnover, and in the end, lack of ability to create shareholder value as a result of this initiative. So what you can do with these algorithms is actually, as you can see, the algorithm is giving you um, recommendations on where to reposition each of those employees in the new organizational structure. So typically, the client would give you a series of variables that they want the algorithm to take into consideration. As we can see, it can be like location, job role, department, gender, seniority. And the algorithm is going to take the restructuring as an optimization problem to simulate the restructuring as employee level, as we see, and give you recommendations on where to reposition each of the employees from one department or one company into another. Um, Here, what you do basically is to build a draft of how the future organization is going to look like. And this accelerates in a significant manner the decision-making process and also fosters more informed decision process. It's not actually replacing human decision-making, but it's supporting it and augmenting the work of the people in the acceleration team or the integration team. Let's see actually, here we have a summary of how it adds value, and then we will review a specific case study. So as we can see, typically we have subjective restructuring plan definition. Because of the fact that there are many people involved, it is really difficult to agree on common metrics, and we operate in an environment with a lot of pressure and high level of uncertainty. And then the execution relies on biased and consumer decision making, which, as we mentioned, has a negative impact on productivity, disengagement, and turnover. So the way that this technology adds value is that it fosters a more informed, agile, and efficient restructuring process by supporting human decision making with AI insights based on the criteria that has been previously selected. So that way, when you have the conversation in a table with more people on what to do on a case by case with that employee, the conversation doesn't have to start from scratch, but you start from a recommendation that has already been provided by the algorithm. And I will see in a specific case study what are the benefits that we can get from this type of technology. This was a case study that we documented in collaboration with Integration Success. This is an M&A consulting company in Germany. So Integration Success had implemented a mega merger in collaboration with McKinsey. This was a mega merger of $1.8 billion in the telecom industry in Europe, where the number 3 in the industry was acquiring number 4. So initially, they hired a team of 7 consultants. 5 were coming from McKinsey and 2 were coming from Integration Success. And these people had a team of 300 people working full time for a duration of 2 years. It took them 2 years to complete this merger. So what we did is that Integration Success put at our disposal the confidential information of this merger at employee level, and we recreated the restructuring so they could compare the benefits of our technology with the results that they had already got through their original approach. It was a retrospective proof of concept. So the same level of detail that the consultants, along with the integration team and the operational leaders, were able to get in a process in a period of 2 years, the algorithm was able to get in 2 weeks. And benefits that were documented by Integration Success. This is a company with 27 years of international experience in M&A integration in areas like US, Asia, and Europe. They documented that the implementation of the technology drove $63 million in cost avoidance savings, which accounted for 3% of the deal value that, as I mentioned, was $1.8 billion. They also documented 25% implementation time reduction, 25% integration cost reduction, 80% undesired deal-specific turnover reduction. And again, this is because employees in this context of restructuring, they do not leave the company because they are not motivated to work in the company. They leave the company because they have a complete high level of uncertainty. They don't know who's taking the decision about their career, what is the criteria utilized, and when the decision is going to be taken. So accelerating the decision process has a very positive impact, reducing the levels of undesired turnover reduction that are specifically caused by the restructuring. Finally, they also documented 25% higher integration manager capacity because the people in the acceleration team, they were able to focus on their core activities and create value for the restructuring rather than having to deal with bureaucracy and never-ending negotiations with the operational leaders, and also a 50% increase in shareholder value creation. That's everything from my side. If you have any question about any of the materials that we have shared, I would be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, I will be also happy to schedule an online demo so you can see the tool in a much more interactive manner in one-to-one if you're interested. And again, here, the area of organizational network analysis, even though, as you can see, there were some articles that were published a long time ago, it has been experienced really a boost in adoption over the last year. My impression is that in a few years from now, running an ONA will be like nowadays is running an engagement survey or similar exercise that several years ago was not common, but after a few years it will become across most large companies. This is technology that can be implemented in the context of mergers, acquisitions, internal reorganizations, or along the daily operations of the company. So if you don't have any question, again, thanks a lot for your time. I'm here at your disposal. We will send you via email the materials, and I'm here at your disposal if you need to learn anything else. So thanks a lot, and have a great day.